Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Wrestling Showcase. Our first one of the new year. I do want to apologize. I've been slacking on this. I do have to apologize, especially to Mel
Slacking.
for being patient with me because I've been pretty sick for like a month and a half now, especially on the weekends. But yeah, welcome everybody. How are you doing, Mel?
I am doing amazing, my friend. It's been a fun week. It's been an interesting day, though. We got to have most of our snow melt for the entire week, and now it dumped another 3 inches on us. We're having fun dealing with that today. How are you doing, my friend?
I still sick, but I didn't want to delay the conversation any longer. I feel like it added a few more topics to what we had in hand. But we have so
Mm,
many topics in hand today, which is going to be pretty interesting to think about. Hey
mm.
Ed, we missed you. Thank you ever
Hi.
stopping by. We have a few topics. Some of them are a little bit old because of me, but I still didn't want to not talk about them, especially with Mel being a New Japan, fan here. I had to include them. So, um, yeah, we have a few, so we're gonna go right ahead onto it. I did want to start with something that we didn't get to talk about because of unfortunately me not being able to do the show. Definitely having Mercedes in New Japan, how especially from you being a New Japan fan. So I wanted to get your aspect and your point of view on that. How did you feel watching that? I know you were watching it live when you watched along with Andre. So how was that for
Mm-hmm.
you? Seeing like thinking the rumors and it became true.
It's very interesting because now thinking back on it, I didn't think about it until this moment. I've now seen her debut twice. Once in NXT and once in NJPW/Stardom. It's been interesting to see the difference, just the difference from her debuting in NXT and WWE to confidently walking out and owning the stage and the crowd in that NJPW show. Um, I mean, let's just throw it out there. The debut wasn't that great. I mean, the atmosphere of it was amazing. I mean, the crowd did pop as much as they were allowed to, given the rules and regulations that Japan still had in kind of effect there for the ability for the crowd to be noisy or not so noisy. We'll acknowledge that the move that she was trying to do on Kyrie, it didn't happen. It was definitely a miss on her part, but I feel that it diminished her debut? Not at all. Because the crowd is still excited to see her, as is evidenced by the fact that the show that she will be facing Kyrie on, which is the Battle of the Valley show, it sold out. And it sold out really quickly. Now, do I think that she is solely responsible? Hello, Bobby. Do I think that she is solely responsible for that show selling out? No, no, obviously not. You do have a few other matches that are going on there. Tom Lawler and Homicide. Um, uh, what else? Who else is more important? David Finlay is also going to be facing Bobby Fish that show. But like, do I think that the ticket sales and the selling out was in a higher percentage due to the Mercedes versus Kyrie match? Absolutely.
Mhm.
I definitely think that this is actually a great place for Mercedes to kind of pop up, only because I feel, and this is no offense to North American wrestling, but I feel like a lot of the divisions right now are very concentrated with a high degree of women who are talented. And what do you do when you have so many women in one place that are talented? You really have to pick and choose which one is going to be, put out in the front there and which one's going to be sitting in the back. Her removing herself and putting herself into Japan and saying, okay, this is where I'm going to be. Now I'm out front. I personally feel that it was the best decision for her. And given her style, I think she's actually going to do very, very well with the Stardom girls. I also feel that this actually opens up the door to go both ways, not in a twisted, perverted way, you guys, but like in a way that if for other women to come over from North America, perhaps Jamie Hayter coming back over again. Ruby Soho would do amazing over here. Camille, like the list could go on. And that being said, the Japanese women could also be given an opportunity to be showcased and then be given an opportunity in North America. So I personally feel that this is actually a really, really amazing thing for wrestling in general, not just for Mercedes. And that it has nothing like this is going to do nothing but good things for the women's division. Absolutely.
Yeah. Bobby has a suggestion here. Alex Gracia. I've seen a little bit of her. She kind of reminds me of like Mariah for you. That you see Mariah in the last couple of
Oh,
weeks at
okay,
least,
okay.
and that kind of a vibe to give you an idea. I
Mm-hmm,
wanted to go
mm-hmm.
back to Carl's comment. Can we at some point talk about how amazing these two ladies are, please? Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Um, no, this is something that even when it's been a little while since it happened, because it feels like ages ago being in the wrestling community at this point, but it's something like I said, I wanted to touch upon it, being that you're the fan and you could tell us, if anything. Hey, Steven.
Am
Thank
I
you for
the only
stopping by.
one who like read "Hello, ladies" like Val Venus would say "Hello, ladies"? Like, did I just hear that text?
Maybe you did. Yeah, but I definitely feel like I wanted your point of view on that and how do you think
Mhm,
she will fit? To me, from being a fan of like Sasha slash Mercedes, I think
mhm,
about it of like this is a good way for her to challenge herself outside of
mhm,
WWE. It is a good way to for her to make her name outside of WWE. Like I watched that clip so many times, like you have no idea how many goosebumps I have seeing this because I kept thinking like once she moved her her fingers from her face and you could see her face in the video, that pop
mhm,
what's amazing to hear. Like I kept putting up the
mhm,
volume. And I just want to cry for her because that would have been amazing. And not
mhm,
only that, but I know how much she loves the Japanese culture and how much she trains and wants to be involved in it. So to see her doing
mhm,
something like that for her, that is a dream come true.
mhm,
And like you said,
mhm.
I know she's not the solely responsible for that, but it's incredible to think that at that moment, that was the only match that had been announced with the graphic and everything for the pay-per-view. And
Exactly.
it's sold like I think 80 or 90% of the pay-per-view itself without having none other matches. So I can imagine like a lot of people want to see Mercedes wrestle outside WWE. See here, because I'm thinking about it this way. She's a great wrestler as it is, and at the same time, you get limited in WWE of what things you can do sometimes. So it'll be
Mhm,
interesting to see how does she do outside of that limit and outside that bubble too. So that's why I'm interested to see how she does and how she performs during that pay per view as well. And going
mhm,
with Bobby's comment, I watched Stardom too, and for Mariah and Zaya Brookside and other wrestlers. Yeah, I feel like
mhm,
it's just a good way to like for anybody. Like I said, not a lot of people watch anything in New Japan or Stardom, so I feel like
mhm,
having a name for her, it also brings up people like her fans to that audience too, and that's how it
mhm,
works out as well. And
mhm,
like you said, maybe it's a good way to open up that door, having any Japanese wrestlers kind of make their names out here in America,
mhm,
and
mhm.
you never know how it'll work out. So you know that this is just a stepping stone to something greater and better for women's wrestling. So that's my point of view on it. And like you
100%.
said, I know the move itself wasn't the best. I know they could have done a different move in that aspect of it, but
Mhm,
still seeing her confidence there, her new gear, the music, the hair, the whole presentation she had, and like the confidence of like her telling Kyrie like I came all the way here for you, and then
mhm,
leaving her planted there with with the woman's title, and then just leaving there with that confidence the way she did, and just like
mhm,
you
mhm.
did it. I was like, you did it. I can't believe it, but you
Gas
did it.
queen.
Yes, I was so happy. I have seen that clip too many times by now, but I'm so happy for her. I just wanted to
Mhm,
cry when I
mhm,
saw it, but it just like it's well, like it's like I always said, you kind of fall in love with these people as wrestlers, and you end
mhm,
up being such a fan that you think I'm gonna support them no matter what they do, so you decide to follow them wherever they go. And it's
mhm,
like I said, you watch Stardom in New Japan. I really haven't seen it like that because I watch too much wrestling on this aspect over here too. But I would like to see it every now and then, especially when she's involved, to see how
mhm.
she does. And I love Kyrie too, so I was like, I can't wait to see this. It just we got a glimpse of it before, so I wonder how it'll go after not having the limits that they had in WWE too. So I think that will be
Hey,
very interesting.
we'll be able to see Astrid popping on Andre and Melballs pretty soon here.
Mm, yeah,
Awesome,
another
awesome.
thing that I also wanted to talk about that it's kind of old at this point as well. Again, my fault. Not too long ago, AEW had a street fight, and it was Willow Nightingale and Ruby Soho versus Anna Jay and Ty Conti or Ty Mello, if you want to go by that name. And there was a lot of discussion at that time because they were especially Ruby Soho was bleeding during the match. So I saw a lot of people commenting about women bleeding, and even Willow did an interview not too long ago talking about it. It's like, well, we bleed every month and nobody talks about it. So it's like, what difference does that really make? And I keep thinking about it. It's like, I know it's not ideal for me to watch women like bleed every time they wrestle, but I
Mhm,
feel like there's certain type of matches that it's gonna have to happen. Like there's hardcore matches. How do you have a hardcore match and not end up bleeding somehow, or a street fight? It's just like makes it not a street fight at that point to me if you don't see something like that to that effect.
Mhm.
And I know you have a name for it, so it's like, what did you think about that aspect of everything that happened in that street fight?
It's the blood traversy of this, man. Uh, I pretty much exactly think what you think. Yeah, if you're going into a street fight match, a hardcore match, and anything above that, not expecting to see at least one or two of the four participants bleeding, why? Like, what are you expecting? Like,
Mhm.
if they're legitimately, because people complain, oh, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. Okay, now we're making it real. You're complaining that it looks real. She got hit in the head with something clearly, and it made her bleed. Did people make this play? I ask because I don't know, because I don't watch AEW and I don't watch WWE regularly. John Moxley, does he not regularly have that crimson mask? Does he like not like every time he like blinks a little hard, he starts bleeding from somewhere? Like, if we're not complaining about that, we shouldn't be complaining about this. Again, it is what it is. It was a street fight match. There was kendo sticks. There were aluminum garbage cans. I don't care if it's like a light aluminum. If someone is impacting your head with something and force behind it, chances are, you guys, there's gonna be an injury. And my goodness, do head injuries bleed like mamma jamma to you? You could just get the slightest little thumbtack just stuck in your head, and that thing's going to faucet blood out for some time before it stops. So, I honestly, I don't know why it was such a controversy about it. Because, like, and Willow's right. I mean, we go through this every month. No one asks me about it. I don't personally want to talk about it either. But it is what it is. Again, go into a street fight expecting someone to at least have a nosebleed or a split lip. Was it excessive? Sure. But was it like unexplainably excessive? Probably not. What do you think of this one, Astrid?
It just made me love seeing like you said, it just like John Moxley bleeds in almost every single one of his matches in AEW, almost on a weekly basis. But then one time like Ruby does it and it's a whole chaos. I don't get it. I really
Oh
don't.
my god.
Um, it just like I said, it just like when you expect like some kind of like extreme rules or a hardcore match, you expect something like that to happen. So I feel like it'd be pretty strange if it doesn't happen, to be honest. But like I said, it was like, was it a lot? Yes, you bled a lot. At the same time, think about it. The year before that, we had I think it was a street fight as well, and in Thai also going against the bunny, for example, and Penelope, and it happened too. But they had barbed wire and things like that. It's like, how do you have a barbed wire wrapped on around your arm and you're choking somebody with it and you don't expect them to bleed? And just like things like that, like they make sense when it happens.
And Britt
And I
Baker
feel like,
bleeds quite frequently too, doesn't she?
yeah, it's happened to her a few times too. And I feel like at the same time, it just makes they look badass too, because they're like they're bleeding, but they're still going through with the match and finishing it like nothing. So it's like
Mhm.
I see it. I don't see it as something negative per se. And going here to Steven's comment, I had no issue with the blood. However, I do believe, as I said this in the kitchen, I feel like Ruby overbladed it, but it happens. The match was great. Yeah, yeah,
Are they
it
still
happened. Of
bleeding? Is
like,
that still allowed?
uh, I think she probably did. Hey, David. I think she bladed during the segment. She like when she got the trash can over
Oh.
her, she had enough time to do it. So I understand that it was a lot of blood, but at the same time, I don't understand why people are thinking of like, oh my God, they bled. It happens.
See, that information changes my opinion a little bit on it, because if she did it, I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that. If you get hit in the head, you can get hit in the head and bleed from something. You can catch the corner
Yeah.
of that aluminum can and bleed. Like, you don't need to blade blood doesn't always sell. And in this, if there's blading involved, I don't really like that. That
No,
shouldn't
I
be
don't
a
like the
thing.
blading aspect of it. It's just the point of like people think it's like they make it seem like it's something negative because she was bleeding, and I was like,
Yeah, no, no,
why is
get
it
over
negative
it.
when the guys do it all the time? So why is it bad when she does it, and when is it bad when it
Mhm.
happens in a women's match? That's the aspect that I kept thinking of in that angle. Is like,
Yeah.
why do you have to complain about it because it happened? What could have been less? Oh yeah, I would have wished it would have been less than what the bleeding that
Mm.
she got for sure, based on the pictures that obviously we can't show. but
Mm,
I don't mind it if it happened once in a blue moon. It's not like it happens very
mm,
often with the women wrestling, especially in AEW. It doesn't really
mhm,
happen often. So it's like I don't
mhm.
understand why the complaints happen in the first place. That's the part
Yeah.
that I was like, okay.
If it's happening like during regular matches that don't involve weapons, like maybe I'd like maybe stop and reevaluate who's potatoing people. But like yeah, when you have a weapons kind of styled match, you do need to expect at least 1% of somebody bleeding somewhere. Um, yeah, get over it. You guys like MMA. If you can watch John Moxley bleed, if you can watch other people bleed, you're good. It's chill.
Yeah, sure. Another thing that I wanted to point out too, and I wanted to credit, if I don't get it wrong, hopefully, Twitter account, which is Who is Vindictive. I know they tweet about women's wrestling quite often. I don't know, but I'm gonna say they because I don't know who the person is. Um, but it's something I wanted to point out to you since you don't watch WWE regularly. I was trying to you to like get you ready for what was.
Mhm,
We have the Royal Rumble happening tomorrow, and something that I
mhm,
thought was interesting was seeing the graphics of how many women are advertised for the Rumble ahead of time. And this is not me. I want a disclaimer. This is not me saying the Royal Rumble match for the woman is going to be terrible or booked terribly or
mhm,
be bad in any way, shape, or form. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see who shows up, who's a surprise, who's not. That's a different topic for me. My
mhm,
topic is that this is the first time, and I'm going to show a graphic with it, that we have the least amount of women advertised for a Rumble before it happens. Mind you, today's Friday. We have SmackDown tonight, and this is the last show before the Rumble happens. So we'll probably get maybe a lady or two added to this graphic, maybe, but it's still the least amount of women I've seen advertised before a show. So just to give you all a perspective, this is the graphic at this time for the Women's Royal Rumble. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7 ladies out of 30 advertised ahead of time. It's the least I've seen so far. Versus, this is for the first Royal Rumble. We had 2 rows of women here advertised. Mind you, obviously Paige didn't get to make it to the Rumble match here, but we have 2 rows of ladies here of the women advertised before the match even happened. Same thing here. We have about 2 rows, basically a third one in some sense of it as well, with the woman being advertised. And same thing here. We have at least 2 rows of women advertised. And same thing here. So we have a good amount of women being advertised before the show even happens. So I thought that part was really interesting when you think about it, because they have a lot of women in the roster. They really do. So it's like I feel like if they don't have anything going on, you gotta just have a clip of them, even if it's on Twitter and YouTube anyway, and just say, "Hey, I'm entering the Rumble." Just give like a short promo on it. So I find it
mhm,
disappointing that this is the least amount of women I've seen advertised for a show. And like I said, this is not even without counting if they include any legends, any ladies from NXT, hopefully, being that Triple H is in charge. Maybe we'll get some ladies from NXT showing up. I know the
mhm,
only one that I've seen for sure was I think Michelle McCool is the one that she said she didn't get a call to join the match at least.
mhm,
Um, and going here to Tom. Hey, Tom. He said, I remember
mhm,
2020 when they advertised that I think 28 women ahead of time. But by the time we got to the event, it doesn't feel like they're getting any real focus this time. Yeah, that's how I
mhm,
felt as well. Like, I feel like there was no build up towards it, even though it's like the Rumble itself. It's a huge match as it is.
mhm,
And it's one that we know how it goes. But I feel like they're not really pushing it like for the women
mhm,
as they do for the guys. Like the
mhm,
one for the guys has at least like 2 rows of guys. I think maybe about 10 or 15 men already advertised. So imagine like half of the matches advertised ahead of time versus the woman doesn't even get half. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and I wanted your thoughts on it, being that I showed you these visuals for you of like the past graphics that we had for the Rumble, and being that obviously you don't watch WWE as much as I do, but to get your point of
mhm.
view as an outsider seeing this.
I mean, we got to go to that audio. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. To have 30 women going into a rumble and you've only advertised 7, that kind of doesn't feel. That's like it's like a quarter of the people who are actually going to be in there. You don't want to tell me you somehow found how many other like 20 what's the math on that? 23 other women from outside sources. Come on. I feel like maybe 50% would have been a good like within company thing to advertise because as Tom mentioned 28 women of the 30 were advertised in 2020. That kind of feels like too much. That's a letdown for me because I do want some surprises. Like I obviously want the obvious people that, people want in there. But I also do want to have that element of surprise. To go back to the Mercedes thing, I was excited to see her debut, but let me tell you, a lot of the wind in my sails for the excitement of it was taken out by the fact that I already knew that she was going to be there. It's nice to have those moments of surprise, but again, to point out what you're mentioning, to only have only 7 women of your company advertised, that seems like a big marketing flop from the WWE's perspective. And we were mentioning this a little earlier. It feels Vincey. It feels Vincey. I don't like it. It's very suspect to me. Because they should hold the guys at this point to the same light, not just because they're wrestling in the same company, but the women are certainly demanding it in the company at this point. Looking at the situation with Mercedes, looking at the situation Naomi, I mean, I'm going to watch the Rumble tomorrow with my recording partner Andre Como and another friend of ours, the Humanoid Freak. Man, we're gonna have to get to you because I'm getting a little I'm a little miffy about this. That the more I think about it, the more it's getting suspicious to me.
Yeah, and going here to Tom's comment too, women's rosters are deep on both sides, so it's hard not to fill the card. And exactly, that's how I felt too. It's like, I think about it, we have Triple H in charge, so we're probably gonna get some NXT people like we had at least before. I think that was last year we didn't get any, which I was really surprised about. But I feel like they have some higher names that could easily make an appearance. So out of the 30, I could at least make 5 girls from NXT show up. I think that would be a good number, like 5 or 7 at least between that number. To have some NXT representation there and show somebody different. And you could at least do like maybe 5 legends just to like get some representation of like the press and the people that didn't get to participate on it when they were in the roster. We always have people like Kelly who always shows up. Like, unfortunately, I wish she would show up, but I wanted Mickie James to be there because last time she got to be there, she was called a women's champion. So it's like I feel like with Triple H now, you could hear her being announced as like Knockouts World Champion, and that would have been amazing to hear again as well. I think she's advertised for something else, so I doubt Mickey's gonna be part of it. But I would have loved for Mickie when she won the title. I kept thinking the Royal Rumble, then she's in. Because that way she can show up with the title. But unfortunately, she's not. Like, how do you not bring Mickie James back after everything that happened? And I wanted to go back, and this is another one that I showed you. This is also from the account Who is Vindictive on Twitter. They posted a graphic of the roster, and just to give everybody an insight, we have some people that are in black and white, like Bianca, Alexa, and Charlotte. It's because they have title matches. So far announced, we have Bianca versus Alexa, so they're probably not going to be in the Rumble because they have that match, which is understandable. And then most likely tonight, we're going to get Charlotte and Sonya announced. Sonya wasn't in black and white, but Charlotte definitely is because it's just pending at the moment. But I feel like that will be made official tonight as well, so that takes both of them out. But if you notice, for example, we had Doudrop, Carmella, and people like Shotzi, Natty, and Aaliyah who are out on injury at the moment. I don't know how bad Natty's injury is with her nose, but those are probably less likely to show up. And then we have people like Naomi who's been absent from TV since May of last year. So Naomi could be one that could perhaps make a surprise entry. We don't know, but if you see now other women that are more in color, those are all the possibilities of the women that could show up to the Rumble. We have Lacey, who lately has been having more like promo packages for her new characters, so she could be showing up. So like imagine thinking like we have all these ladies that could be part of it, and they're still not in the graphic yet. So that's pretty interesting to think about at that moment. And like I said, we have the legends and the NXT ladies who that are not in here as well. So you never know who could show up. And going here to Bobby's comment, pick 5 NXT female wrestlers like Cora, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Indy Hart, one Zoe Stark. Yeah, those are definitely could be a good a 5 to bring in here because they have a good star power in NXT. But it just this is my point, is like going back to the graphic. Look at all the possibilities we have here right now, and that's without even counting NXT and Legends. And like half of these women are not in the graphic, which is pretty interesting to think about. Because I keep going back, it was like, how did you not have Damage Control announced here since they don't have a title match? The the women's tag titles are not on the line, so you could have added Bailey, Io, and Dakota in here so far. Going back to this too, it's like Nikki's not there either, and Candace. I feel like they don't have really much going on, so you could have added them by now. I think Candace was part of it, but Nikki wasn't. So like I would have added Nikki by now there as well.
Yeah, and
But
isn't
yeah,
that
so many
Tegan Knox too,
possibilities.
next to Zelina?
Yeah, we have Tegan who's there that and Zia Lee who don't have really anything going on who could be a part of it as well. The only thing that I've seen really was Zelina and Emma having like a back and forth backstage about being at the Rumble, but I haven't really seen a build up towards it. It's been more of like the Bianca and Alexa build up and a little bit of the Charlotte and Sonya build up, but I haven't seen any build up whatsoever when it comes to the Rumble. Aside from maybe like Liv wanting to be number one to show up when she does like win it, then she wants to show up because she wanted a number one. But I feel like this year I'm like disappointed with the way it has been booked for the women because usually they have either qualifying matches or they have the girls like coming out in a promo and say like I'm gonna be in the Royal Rumble and things like of that nature that you already expect to happen around this time. And I feel like we didn't really get that. And it feels like such a letdown. I don't know, like what do you think like now seeing that graphic as well?
If I don't see Xia Li in that Rumble, man, I'm gonna be really mad. I Xia Li is actually one person who has actually almost brought me back into viewing WWE when she was doing that kind of story, that mystery kind of secret society story with the little faction there. Holy hot diggity, did I think that WWE had something just there that they could have really capitalized and utilized on. And like what I don't like what even happened? It just like it was there and then it wasn't. Like
Yeah.
Vince's era, the television was literally like dementia. It was ridiculous. But yeah, I really do think that they should be advertising a few more ladies. Damage Control, the three of them could have fit perfectly right behind the three that were in the front there. It could have at least made the graphic look a little bit more full. Yeah, I have to agree and echo the sentiment that I am disappointed with specifically how they're advertising and handling the women's Rumble because I feel like it's not as much of a focus as the men's. And it's just getting to be no longer okay. Like we want to see what's going on here too. And like these women work so gosh dang hard just as much as the guys. They're getting hurt just as much. Like let's give them some props here, guys.
Yeah, like that definitely. It's just like you could also add a Becky by now. I know people are wondering about Asuka bringing her past character back to the Rumble and being that darker character when she returns, which I would get if she wasn't advertised because of that aspect if it were true. But you have Becky who could add a lot of star power and Bailey to the Rumble and nothing. So it's interesting to think about that point of view of like, aside from the ladies that have their title matches, you could have announced everybody else to be a part of it somehow. And it leads back to our last discussion point, which is going to be a big one. I have big concentration of that part of the show now, especially after what happened on Raw 30. Honestly, I had Raw 30 like here while I was doing other stuff in the background, just waiting for a particular match that didn't happen. But it just leads back to what we're talking about with the Rumble as well. Here with Carl's comment, I'm disappointed how the women are showcased in multiple companies. Oh,
yes,
agreed. But yeah, we have a couple of like things we wanted to chat about when it comes to the Raw 30, and it kind of connects to the Women's Rumble and the build-up as well. Raw 30 happened on Monday. Honestly, I was super excited for the Becky and Bailey cage match. So that was one of the reasons why I had it here in the background, waiting for it to happen. When it would happen, I wanted to pay attention to it. And when it did, I was so disappointed it didn't happen. You know, it was supposed to be both of like, you know, the first time we get them like on a show like this. So cage match, you're thinking it'll keep Damage Control out so that way it'll be one-on-one. And the match didn't really start to begin with. We had Damage Control just beating up Becky, and then the match itself was, you know, didn't happen. I like how I did give credit to Bailey because in her promo she kept thinking about it like I outsmarted Becky. Like she really thought she had me because she had a cage match of like, and then she started giving her evil laugh. And it's like, no, this is gonna be like my time because it's when I want it to happen. So I like that aspect, the way she responded to it. But don't get me wrong, I love the storyline with Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns and everything with the bloodline. But it sucks at the same time that one of the matches I was looking forward to didn't happen because that segment ran too long. And that's what happened. And to think of like Raw 30, Raw's a 3-hour show as it is. And we had a couple points when it comes to this that we were so disappointed at, because the women's match that happened that night was Bianca versus Sonia. I watched it back, and it lasted about 6-7 minutes out of a 3-hour show, and that's all we had. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Of like, I get having your champion on the show. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing Bianca, but it's just disappointing to see her in a 7-minute match on the Raw 30 when she's the champion of that said show. So I was like, did you have any thoughts on that aspect first before we continue?
Having not seen the match myself, it sounds like it was just a squash match from Bianca to Sonia, which is very disappointing. Because then you couldn't have had to suffer her makeup there, Carl. Squash matches are always good to like really solidify your champion as a strong champion, but at the same time, again, it was the Raw 30 show. You can literally perform those squash matches on literally any other show. This was a Raw 30 show. I would have personally liked to see the Raw champion take on the SmackDown champion and then beat the SmackDown champion and be like, hey, Raw 30, we win. That would have been a lot nicer for me to see. That being said, though, I definitely think that definitely should have been longer, at least 10, 12 minutes. Give them a good show, because I think that Sonia is one of those talents that she shouldn't just have a problem always just taking the pin. I like, there's going to be those people in those companies, but I feel like she is a better talent than that and could be utilized in a better and more effective way than just taking a loss to a champion. But yeah, again, I did not see this segment at all. I just kind of heard about it through Turnbuckle Studios watch along. So I didn't really know what to expect on this. I'm just going to flat out say what I've been saying to you in the back before we came on here. It's got Vincey. It smells Vincey to me. Just it stinks of old man and dementia. Don't like it. What did you think? I don't like the perfume. Yeah, no, I won't think that would be a perfume. That would be an expired Galogany.
Oh my word. No, it's just like there's so many aspects of Raw 30 that really disappointed me, because to bring another point to it, like Raw 30 happened and they had a graphic. I'm not saying that the women were advertised for the show. Sorry, not that one. But it's just like the USA Network Twitter account was posting and promoting the Raw 30 show. And the way they're talking about it, they post this graphic with the woman and they're just like, here, we're going to celebrate the woman, on Raw. And it's like, who's your favorite like female wrestler? And you're thinking, oh, that means like at least some of the women here in the graphic are going to show up in some way. But first, to bring up a point, the Bella Twins were advertised here, but I was watching a clip from Nikki Bella's Instagram live, and to give a long story short, she said they advertised for the show, and we had told them beforehand, and we were in contact because Nikki has her show of like Nikki Bella Says I Do coming up, and she was promoting it. But I guess with Raw 30 coming up, they asked because her show, it's still with the WWE. It's WWE and E together, so it's a collaboration in that aspect. They asked WWE, do you have anything for us before we book anything? And they said, no, we don't have anything for you guys for the Raw 30. So they went ahead and advertised, and they kept going and booked the media for the Nikki Bella Says I Do, for them to promote it in media through the whole week. So she said, I was booked from Monday through Thursday. So there was no way I was going to show up at Raw 30. But they still put a graphic like this, and I'm not saying they were advertised, but that gives people an idea that they're going to see some of these ladies on the show. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, basically were advertised for beforehand. There was another graphic with them, and then the week after they were removed from it. So that was pretty interesting. She's like, we were advertised, and like we were not even part of it because they told us they had nothing for us. So they still put us in the graphic. So people were already expecting the Bella Twins to show up. Obviously they didn't. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was interesting, like having this is like, you have Becky there, the match barely happened. I don't see Bailey in the graphic either. Obviously Bianca's going to be there as champion. Rhea has been consistently with Judgment Day. Charlotte's on SmackDown, and then the Bella Twins are not here. China has passed, so obviously she was not going to show. So it's like
she was there in spirit.
It was like, what will you show this? And then Asuka hasn't been on TV for a while, and like I said, we had the rumors that she's going to be showing up at the Rumble now. But how do you advertise half of these women and they're not even going to be like celebrated in any way whatsoever? And that's another thing. They
Mhm.
didn't. We're not going to show half of them. Were not going to be on the show. Another aspect is that they were not even celebrated either. Because when I think of Raw, I think like so many moments happened during Raw this past 30 years. And one point that we had Nikki Bella and Brie Bella promoting their show, but they were also being asked about Raw 30 and not being there. And they had a few comments. I wrote down a couple of things that were interesting from what they said, which I pointed out to you before as well, but I figured I
Mhm.
would tell you again.
Mhm.
She said, when you're so like passionate about something and you put your heart and soul into it, you want to be appreciated. And that's something that happens not only in wrestling, but in any industry. And then Nikki says, I feel like women's wrestlers are not being appreciated for what they do, and they should have been. She said, in those 30 years, the women have done a lot, and it's a 3-hour show, which is male dominated as it is. The women were not honored at all. There was not even like a video package showing the women's revolution or anything of that aspect. Um, Carl, just yeah, this was the picture that I put was a promo on the USA Network Twitter account. They were just saying who are your favorite like female wrestlers. But I forgot if it was 2 weeks ago, I believe at this point. They had a graphic with the Bellas in the background, and then they changed it. They took out the Bellas and they put Medusa there. So she was the only woman in the graphic whatsoever, which is another thing to it as well. But Nikki was saying how like they didn't even. She's like, it's not just about us. It's not about us being a part of it. She's like, we can be without the Bellas being on TV. But she
Mhm.
said they could have easily done a video package showing the women's revolution. But at the same time, they say, oh, because you're not in the company, they kind of forget about you and they don't want to show you. It's like it's kind of disappointed in that aspect. And she said, if a wrestler leaves the company and they're no longer there, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be remembered. So I think
Mhm.
that's a good way to think about it because we have people like Soraya who was not in the could have been in the video package if anything with a lot of moments there. Mercedes, Sasha, she could have been in the video package, but because she's another company, they're not going to show her. The Bellas are
Mhm.
no longer there, so they're like, forget about it. We're not going to show them either. So I thought it was interesting because even if you're not going to have the ladies there, you could at least do some kind of video package showing the history from like Trisha Lita main events in the first main event for women's wrestling to like other main events that they had going on through the years, but they really weren't showing anything whatsoever. So I thought that was super interesting. Of like, we had so many things that like happening with the women's revolution. You could have used this as an opportunity to like promote that again as well.
Mhm.
And it was interesting to not even see a graphic with it, not even a video package I did for other people. And so
Mhm.
I was disappointed in that aspect too. Did you have any thoughts on that end as well on the like no video packages for the ladies?
Yeah, I do find that very oh, what's the word? Hypocritical. Of this company to be doing that, especially because like, oh well, Mercedes is not a part of the company anymore. Soraya's in. It doesn't devalue the things that they did in the company when they were there. And that's something I really hate, not just about wrestling companies, but about wrestling fans. There's a lot of people and companies that'll be like, oh, well, you're not with us anymore, so your history doesn't exist here anymore. Yes, it does,
Mhm.
my guy. I made you guys a lot of money. If that doesn't exist anymore either, we're gonna have to have a conversation. Um, but yeah, and to Carl's point in the chats there, it was okay to show Daniel Bryan and Jericho in the packages, but it's not okay to show these other women. I mean, I don't want to say it's petty, but it's petty. Show some maturity, show some professionalism. You're trying to start, connections with these companies. Don't just sit there ignoring them because the WWE likes to think that it doesn't need these other companies. It does. We are at a point in professional wrestling, I think, and its popularity, in that it would be stupid, professionally stupid, for the WWE as a company to not work in some way, shape, or form, even if it's the, the most microscopic amount. They need to be able to at least extend some thickness of an olive branch leaf particle, something, to be able to start showing the rest of the world that it's not the company it used to be under the Vince era, and it's doing the opposite. It's showing that it's going right back to the Vince era and the Vince way of thinking, and I'm concerned. I'm very concerned about this company and the professional decisions and marketing decisions it's making, and decisions it's making about its people and the matches that it's putting out.
Yeah, and to add another layer to the situation at Raw 30, the only woman that showed up backstage is Medusa. She was just playing poker with the gags backstage, and that was it. She was the only woman that was showed up that was like a legend. I was like,
Mhm.
you can't tell me you couldn't have asked Trish or Lita to be there for a while now. You could have asked Victoria to be there. Mickey James could have been there if you asked them with time to like be a part of the show for even just backstage. You say like she's here. People like Maurice, who's usually there with the Miss anyway, or even like Kelly, who would have probably shown up too. But I feel like they were just booking this kind of like last minute because of the way that Nikki was talking about it. She said, we asked, they said they had nothing, so we did other stuff, but they still advertised us to be a part of it. And I know like the cards are always subject to change, but I know
Mhm.
there's probably people that bought the tickets thinking, I'm gonna see the Bella Twins here somehow. And I know like
Mhm.
before for the 25th anniversary, they put the music up and they presented the ladies and they had the ladies come out and they had people like the Bellas and even Kelly and Michelle McCool, Maurice, Maria, and Lillian even come out and like being celebrated. It's like, hey, these are some of the women that were here part of the show before. And even for a couple seconds, they would like show up and say hi to the fans, but you don't see them often. So even I feel like something like that would have made a difference in this show of like seeing women represented through the whole show. So I was disappointed to like
Mhm.
Medusa was that only one that we saw backstage. It's just like, how is it just her? Really?
Yeah, yeah, and like especially like Trish and Lita too. Like that, like for myself in my adolescency, that was the women that I watched and kept me in professional wrestling. When maybe some of the other ladies, as beautiful as they were doing matches that were not so beautiful. um, but like I would have personally appreciated some more women being brought in if I was going to be watching the show, that is, or at least a video montage showing what it was for women's wrestling to evolve from that time and over the beginning to now, like a transitional thing. Because, like, my goodness, I can only see X-Pac so many times before I'm like, I just want to super kick his face off. I'm done. I don't need to see him anymore. You know, it, yeah. There's certainly sounds from what I heard of the show. There could have been a lot more improvement done, but again, it smells fancy to me, and that scares me. Scares me a lot for the
Yeah.
Rumble.
Yeah, it's like, how many DX reunions do you really need, Mel? We had like three already.
Yeah, we only needed one. We only needed one, and it could have been that awful atrocity where Triple H and Sting fought, and we had, geriatric everything at ringside. That could have been it. I was good with that.
Mm-mm.
Goodness.
Um, another point of like aspect of like the Raw 32, which I thought was super interesting, was Charlotte had a promo, and
Mhm.
she talks about she's like, I'm SmackDown Women's Champion, but Raw will always be my home. Like I feel like she kind of grew up as a female wrestler here, and said we revolutionized women's wrestling, and I said, have we really? Because we haven't seen anything tonight. That's all I wanted to like. I wish I could respond. And then she was naming people talking about. She's like, these people may be that as good as I am now as a 14-time world champion. And she's like, well, I have people. I've been against Ronda. I've been against Nikki and Brie, Asuka and Rhea Ripley. And I thought it's interesting. We had those five people mentioned. Sure, I know they I give them credit, of course, but
Mhm.
it's weird to not have her say Bailey, Becky and Sasha as well. Because even like even
Mhm.
Mercedes being gone, Sasha and Charlotte has a jump back and forth for the Raw Women's title for a while now, and just like and they had those
Mhm.
title matches on Raw. And you mean to tell me that Ronda made you more than Sasha then?
Mhm. Mhm.
No, not to me.
No. And I'm sitting here thinking about it a little bit more. Charlotte's absence and I mean, there's going to be people who don't get along with her backstage, obviously, but like you hear about it more now. There's less
Yeah.
of a kayfabe thing going on with these wrestlers, and you hear about the animosity, you hear about the attitude. I'm wondering now if maybe Bailey and Charlotte and Becky and Charlotte are maybe not on the good terms that they would like to be, and that could have played into why maybe Charlotte chose or what it was told to not involve them. The Sasha thing is obvious. I mean, and
Mhm.
again, that goes back to the Vincy smell. He doesn't like acknowledging people who are no longer a part of his company because for whatever, I don't know, they cease to exist. They die. They like Thanos snap Ash into infinity and they leave the WWE. I don't know.
Mm.
But like I'm happy. I was happy when he left. I'm disappointed to hear he's back. I'm hoping that he leaves again. Like, I really just, at this point, we need a doctor to say, no, he's not mentally coherent and he needs to be put on bed rest. Just
Mm.
put old Yeller outside, please.
Yeah, I was so disappointed. I was like, I know why you could have mentioned Sasha, but really? And just like it
It's
hurt me
heavy.
inside.
It's
Um,
definitely
it just and to give a comparison to it, a lot of you know that I do an NXT post show with Ed on Tuesdays on OLE and Cole taking over. So I was doing it this week by myself because Ed had an emergency, but being like watching the show by myself and only having myself to like really like analyze it because usually I discuss it with him as it happens. I kept thinking that show is 2 hours and it did more for women's wrestling than Raw did for a Raw 30 show that's supposed to be a special and it's 3 hours. Like even before the show, like I believe on Monday already, they had advertised two, maybe three women's matches and one women's segment. And one thing that I always said about NXT, and I give them credit, NXT, and I know that's more with Shawn Michaels, the way he's running it as well, and Triple H has been doing the same thing for years now, is that they represent or they have most of the roster showing up on TV in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's an interview, backstage vignette, in the Dangerous parking lot NXT has, or even in like a match. But they have at least what 20 to 25 women, and at least on a weekly show we have at least 20 ladies show up. So I think that was pretty interesting. Hello, thank you for stopping by.
yeah.
So I feel like that NXT did a lot better at showing their women on a 2 hour show and balancing that aspect of like showing the women. And even though the matches they're not always going to take long, sometimes they take between 10 to 15 minutes, but the matches are developed well enough that it makes me feel like they're longer than what they are. And I feel like that happens quite often in NXT as well with like the pacing and the timing of it. But it's often like the show. They do so much work for women there that Raw and SmackDown have been doing for the past couple of years. And it's disappointing to see because I keep thinking these are the women of the future. So it's like they're gonna go into the main roster soon and they're so used to doing the 10, 15-minute matches and going here and not even getting booked when you go to the main roster in these shows or like getting your matches canceled. Because I imagine people like Becky or Bailey who like you think about it like the top of the division right now and their match got canceled of all matches. So it's interesting to think about like the same company, but they have different aspects of it for different shows. And even lately on SmackDown, we had maybe one women's match, even like just maybe like an interview or like segments and things like that. But we really haven't had a lot of developing in SmackDown recently, which I hope would change once Charlotte returns. But I feel like Charlotte returned. Ronda definitely vanished. I think like definitely Thanos just like snapped her because she vanished. Um, she's definitely gone.
See, Thanos is actually in WWE, you guys. He's in that. He's hiding. Maybe that's who Nikki Cross is. That's why she's lurking in the back always, just waiting to puff somebody out of there.
That would explain a lot.
Hey, it might. That certainly does have no Vincey smell on it. I mean, it's very obvious that the very, very difference in style that the shows are produced, that Triple H is obviously not doing so much on Raw and SmackDown and focusing more on NXT. That being said, that concerns me. That concerns me a lot because again, the pay-per-views that we predominantly get are WWE and not NXT. Like, not to say that we don't get the NXT ones, we do, but the main, big guys, the WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, the SummerSlam, the Survivor Series, that's all WWE events. And could NXT people be held back from those shows possibly because of this? That's very concerning. Resetting SmackDown.
Yeah, I went to go to Ed's comment. Maybe Triple H is resetting SmackDown that they reset NXT. I feel like my hope right now is like maybe after the draft we'll get something fresher, and I feel like it will help build up more the ladies rather than having like these random matches that happen with like Tegan Knox here, then a random match with Xia Li, and the next week they're not on TV, and like vice versa. So I'd be like,
Wait,
it's
that was
been
a
lacking
match?
lately. No, but I'm like, those are the kind of matches we get on
Oh.
SmackDown. They're just random. One of them
God,
wins,
Nicole,
and then
could you
it's done.
imagine? That would be an amazing match.
So yeah, but it's random stuff they do. Just like they face each other once and then done. That's it. Nothing else. And I'm just like, there's nothing else you could add to this, really?
You can start a feud or a friendship subtly in there and build up for a few months with that. Absolutely. Come on, you
Yeah.
guys. I'm not
And
even
I feel like,
creative. I can figure that out.
yeah, and to me, it's disappointing when you think about it because I feel like this roster of women is so talented. Like they're incredible
Mm.
at what they do, but they don't get to showcase it, and that's very unfortunate because I wish I could see that more often. I feel like AEW has been improving a lot when it comes to that lately. I feel like they've been doing,
Mhm.
even though they're still sticking to their one women's match and their 9:30 slot, and that there's it seems like it's not changing anytime soon. But I feel like we had different women's feuds going on all at once at the same time, whether it's on like a Rampage or Dynamite. But it's like we
Mhm.
have Willow and Ruby here, and right now they almost seems like they're building up like an AW Originals versus the new blood kind of blood and guts kind of
Oh,
match.
okay.
Um, so we'll see how that. And it's saying seems like there's gonna be a fatal forward for the women's tag titles coming up at Mania. Yeah, I would like to see that. Just give me something. I know, like for sure, like for the I know because of the Rumble, it'll be a little bit different, being that we had two Rumble matches and they last long. So we're definitely not going to get a women's title match for the Royal Rumble, but we have at least, hopefully, they do have the SmackDown Women's title announced tonight, and that could add a little bit more to it, though.
Who are the current WWE Women's Tag Team Champions?
Dakota and Io, Damage Control.
Oh. Whoa, wait, whoa. So not only did the top people of the company, but the champions of the company got their match cut? Like their
Yeah,
segment cut down? Guys, come on.
yeah.
These are your champions. Come on. They're supposed to be showcased as much as everybody else. Like I get that Roman's the champion and good for him. Keep doing your hair thing. But like there shouldn't there shouldn't be a point in time where his segments, especially when he's not functionally doing anything. And when I say functionally, I want to see you do something. Put someone through a table. Even if you're just talking, you're in the ring there cutting promos with someone or whatever. I am enjoying the comedy bits. At least that's something. But like, you know, move, hit somebody, slap somebody, clunk somebody in the back of the head, shove Paul Heyman, you know, mean mug at a baby in the crowd. Do something.
I
Um,
just this is making me laugh with Ed. Bailey had the match that was a technicality. Yeah, just like I don't think the match really officially started to begin with. But it just
I
like
know.
when they came in, it was a 3-on-1 against Becky, and then just Bailey was on top of the cage of like I beat her, but she didn't win the match though. Like the match didn't happen, and it's
It's one of those
unfortunate to
chaos
like see
endings.
this. Yeah, because I feel like Becky and Bailey have been like building up this for a couple weeks now, and that could have been like a good
Mm.
exclamation point towards that feud. And we didn't even get that. Like I wish we would have, because I was looking forward to when I saw the graphic. I was like, "This is the match I want to see," and I had it there. I was like, when I heard the entrances, I was paying attention. I was like, "Oh, that's it. That's it.
Yeesh.
Okay."
Yeah, and it really does sound like there was a large degree of fumbling happening on this roster 30 show. I'm not one to watch WWE, so I don't really know what happened with it. And like obviously I'm not backstage, I'm sitting here. So it's really who knows what was going on backstage to kind of cause this kind of craziness and chaos and disorganization. Were decisions being made last minute by someone showing up that day to kind of take care of everything? Was just things going wrong, things breaking, things happening that caused the segments to, I don't think we're ever going to really fully know. And to be honest, I don't think I want to. Something tells me that would ruin that curtain for me. Um, so what's Peel?
The PLE Premier Live event. um,
Okay.
Going to Ed's comment, he said, "I think we got elimination chamber match for the Raw ladies at the Premier Live event." Jeez. Yeah, I feel like that would be interesting to see. At least like have a bunch of the women together. At least even if there's one match like that, that it's one that it lasts a while. Usually,
Yeah.
I would like to see that again. And just it's those kind of matches that women don't get often that I want to see as well
Mhm,
happening. So
mhm,
when it says steel cage, I was like, let's do this. It doesn't happen often when you get a
mhm.
match like this. So I was looking forward to it, and just it didn't happen though.
Yeah, I actually really like Ed's idea of an elimination chamber style match because those matches usually tend to be very, very fun. Usually because I think they're produced by smart people in the back there.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, I don't think I have much more to say on this bad boy. I think we've kind of covered a lot of what I thought about what kind of happened. Again, not a regular viewer of WWE. There has been a lot of complaining and a lot of pointing out that it just yeah, they did not showcase the women. And I also looked into the ratings. Did you see they actually the ratings dropped for this show from their show the week before? So
Mm-hmm.
I just I don't know. This 30th anniversary special should have been something that's like, oh my god, you guys, we have to see this. It's the 30th anniversary. Oh my god. But it's like it
Yeah.
didn't seem to be that way. I think the first show, which I believe was January 2nd, was
Probably.
actually first or second. I don't remember. I think it was the second. It was actually like 200,000 more viewers
Yeah.
than the Raw 30th special. So yeah. No, they were not. They were lower.
I haven't even checked
Yeah.
it out, to be honest.
I got it at
But
Forbes, Forbes.com. So feel free to go check my shit on there. But yeah, that's what I saw on January 2nd. It was 1.6, and this was 1.48. So,
interesting.
yeah, there was a drop. There was a dip, and
Yeah.
not like the fun dip in the 90s where you put hands upon hips and dippy dippy dip. Not that kind of dippies. Those dippies
Oh
are
my
fun.
god. Yeah. But this is it for us for this episode. So, Mel, where can the people find you for what you got going on?
If you're looking to follow a Melball on Twitter, you can find me at Collins Melball, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Melball Collins. You can also find me on Facebook and on YouTube at Andre and Melball's Wrestling Talk. We usually are putting out 2 videos a week right now because NJPW has started up again, and Stardom seems to always be in an endless timeline of tournaments that I need to to be watching and review. So you can find us all there.
Yeah. For me, you can find me on Tuesdays doing taking over with Ed, usually. So yeah, we're excited because we're gonna have pretty soon for the Vengeance Day post show. We're gonna have Victor Tyler Perry, which is Wallflower Perry from the wrestling club. So we're really excited to have him for our post show for Vengeance Day. So watch out for that one. Thank you, Steve, for stopping by. Um, but yeah, aside from that, you can find me doing Making an Impact with Cody on Thursdays. This month it'll be interesting because I was there for the taping, so I get to see something different from that aspect versus what Cody's watching. So we'll see how that goes this week. I know tomorrow we do have a Royal Rumble post show with myself, Chris Best, and Bobby Munson on the OLE podcast network. So if you go watch it, our local establishments, you can watch our for your notifications there after the show for to hear our reactions to the show. But yeah, just really excited. And then you can find me on my Twitter, Astrid Pizarro. My Instagram is Astrid Pizarro20. And on the weekends, I have my NXT review on Women's Wrestling Talk. So definitely watch out for that as well. But yeah, pretty excited with everything going on this week and the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Carl, for being here. We appreciate you. But yeah, it was a fun episode. So yeah, I'm gonna raid Women's Wrestling Talk for that matter because they're live at this moment,
Yay!
and I want to show them some support because they have shown me support as well. So let me see if I can find them here. There we go. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for stopping by. We'll see you next time.